Not in again. Christ. She must be hiding in that bloody tunnel. How about that? Hello, Mum. Hello, Mum.
Hello.
Made for you. Look. My mum's lemonade.
Right.
Oh, well, we've been out filming, Mum.
Have you?
You. They're all over. Put the whole way of it. Look at this. Where is it?
I just raked it over, you see. In sheds. As far as that though. Well, Kill that old Irishman.
What else? I know. Hang on. These people walking down the street, right? And they're walking along,
Yeah.
and they've got a penguin. And they've got this penguin on the lead. And they're walking along down the street with this penguin, this poor penguin walking behind them, and it's on the lead like that. And this cop's walking down the road like this. And he spots these people walking down with this penguin. He goes up to them and says, "What you got there?" And they say, "Well, I've got a penguin." He says, "Well, you shouldn't have a blooming penguin on a lead like that." He says, "Take it to the blooming zoo." "All right then, officer, we will." "Right, do you think so too?" So off they go, and off he goes. Bloody hell, I think we had to walk along that street. Anyway, next day, cop's walking along right out on his beat, and these people walking down the street, and the penguin is still there. And he goes straight up to me and says, "Oi, I thought I told you to take that penguin to the zoo." And they said, "Yes, we did. Now we're taking him to the pictures."
Come out as well, does it?
This is my own joke. This is one I made up myself many years ago. Female psychologist, right?
Yeah.
And she's doing some research into character types,
Yeah.
right? And she's discovered that a character type comes out when you name your child.
Yeah.
So anyway, and the results of her findings on these particular 4 women, I was like this, and just found out this woman that was money mad had called her daughter Penny,
Yeah.
and a woman that's highly religious had called her daughter Carol. She was fashion crazy, right?
Yes.
And she'd called her daughter Dior.
Deal.
Yeah. And so with this, the 4th woman gets up and says, "Come on, Fanny, we're going home."
You didn't make that.
You ready? You're listening to me?
Yeah.
There's this lunatic, right? He escapes the lunatic asylum. And he gets out the window and he runs across the lawns like this.
Yeah.
And he gets up to the brick wall, scrambles on, sitting there judging the distance. He looks down and there's this allotment, you see. And he's looking at this bloke growing this rhubarb. And he's got all this blooming horse dung all over this rhubarb, you see. He's digging it in. So he takes one look at it and says, "Blow this, I'm going back in the asylum. At least we have custard on ours." That's a bit out, don't they?
The monster.
He looks like
Doctor
Ho.
Len's letters. It's really funny, actually.
Get up, stand up.
I can't stand up for it.
Stand up.
Oh, you got the
It's
action.
too long.
Oh.
Alright then. So, what happened? Right, I was travelling with this bloke called Jerry, right, this Irish chap. And I'd met him down in Perth, near Perth. And this bloke was a millionaire, right? And he'd because he inherited this farm, which was then sold, and it was just like a ordinary old farm, dairy farm in Ireland, but it just happened to be located near the very snooty end of Dublin, and so they sold it for development, and so he sold it for about £5 million, and so he was a very rich. And so anyway, he's travelling around Australia, and I bumped into him, and I started to travel with him, and we went. We was up in the Northern Territory, and we decided to canoe up this river called the Catherine River. So we went to this spot, and we hired this canoe, really big canoe, weighed a hell of a lot despite it being made of fiberglass. And so we went to the national park there, and we had to take a pack of stuff with us, like food and all that sort of stuff. And off we went. And the river was really low, so every time we hit these rapids, we had to carry the canoe over these boulders and stones and things like that. And it was really heavy, and after a while we were sort of carrying it up past, every time we come to these stones, carrying it and dragging it, and really heavy. And eventually we got up to, I don't know, about the 8th gorge, and it was, by that stage, the gorges are really, really steep. And the gorge end we came to was just like a wall, it was called the wall, and it was just like a solid wall of rock. And the only way you could get your canoe up there was to get a rope out and sort of lasso it to a tree and haul it up that way. And past the wall, the river becomes very sacred to the Aboriginals. I mean, they don't like this part of the river that's been given over to the white people anyway, but they really don't like white people going into the other part of the river over the wall. So we decided not to bother, and it was getting a bit late, so we decided to camp. So we turned the canoe round and we went back to this other gorge, and it was quite a large one, and it was just like a kind of amphitheatre sort of thing like that. It was really rounded at one side, and on the other side it had this sandbank with some trees on it. So we thought, we'll pull up in this sandbank. So we pulled the canoe up in this sandbank, tied it up to one of these trees, and we climbed up through these trees onto the top of the sandbank, found a flattish bit, and decided to put our tent there. So I said, right, I'll go and get some firewood. So I got some firewood together in a big bunch, and I got this whole heaps of long sticks that were hanging about there as well. So I got all these heaps of sticks, put them by the fire, and got the fire going. Once it got fun, you started to cook. And so I decided to go down to the gorge and put some lines out to get some fish. And all of a sudden I feel really creepy. Like, I just felt like somebody was watching me. And so I was looking around like this. I thought, no one's here, absolutely quiet. You could hear the odd crackle from the fire where Jerry was cooking. And the more I stayed down there, the more I felt that somebody was watching me, and it was just like an Aboriginal or something like that was watching me. And I could sort of visualise this sort of old Aboriginal face with painted face looking at me. So I got really scared, and in the end I thought, I've had enough of this. So I ran up to the fire and to have a word with Jerry, and he was there sort of cooking away. And I said to him, I really don't like this place, this is really scary, And he's going, what's the matter? Of course it's okay. And I said, oh no, Jerry, it's really bad, I can feel it, it's just not on. And he said, for God's sake, shut up. You're only trying to scare me, to be sure. You're just trying to scare me. And I said, no, I'm not, Jerry, I'm not. I said, it's really, really not too good here. He said, just shut up about it, all right. And I said, all right, I will, I could see he's getting a bit hot under the collar about it. And So anyway, so I thought I won't press the point because he's obviously getting very heated and he's quite a large chap. Sort of big ginger hair and a beard, very wild type of man, extremely strong. And I thought, well, I won't press the point at all. And so he dished up the meal, and so I started to eat it like this, in silence. And I thought, well, I'll just keep my thoughts to myself. And he eats his meal, and he puts down his plate, and he stands up, and I'm watching him stand up, and he goes over to the pile of firewood, and he picks up one of these long poles, and he's got this big long pole in his hand like that, and I'm looking at him like this, and he's got this big pole, and he picks it up and goes stomping over towards the fire, and about a couple of feet from the fire, he just picks up this pole and goes boom, straight into the sand like that, really fiercely, so it's sticking up like that. And he looks at this pole, and then he goes down, sits back down again, and picks up his plate and starts to finish off his meal. And I'm still sitting there in silence like that, and I thought, well, I won't say anything because and then after a while I thought, I've got to say something. I mean, that's so totally out of character for him to do such a violent thing like that. He was such a gentle person, and for him to jump up and do that, I thought was something really, have I really upset the bloke? Have I really touched on something far, worse than I thought? So in the end I said to Joe, I said, what on earth made you do that? I've got to mention it. What on earth made you do that? He says, do what? And I says, get up and stick that pole in the sand like that. And he said, what do you mean? And I said, well, you just got up and stuck that pole in the sand. I said, yeah, standing up like that. He said, no, I didn't. I said, you did. He said, no, I didn't. I said, I did. I just see you do it. We think I'm sitting here. How's it sticking out? He said, I never did that. You must have done it. And I said, I didn't do it. I said, you did it. He said, no, I didn't. And in the end, he got so upset that I just had to stop talking about it because he absolutely refused to admit that he'd stuck this pole in the ground, and he just didn't believe he'd done it. And so that night, I'd sort of been used to sort of sleeping out because I couldn't spare to sleep next to him because he's snoring, he's farting. And so but I just couldn't bear to sit outside of the tent and in the because I was so scared. So I said, well, I'll sleep in the tent with you tonight. So I slept and it was awful. It's farting and snoring. It was just disgusting.
What a combination.
Because he was a vegetarian, you see. And
What a difference that makes?
you see all these diabolical. And I just really tossed up whether it's worse sort of getting the evil eye outside or I didn't get a wink of sleep that night. And then I got up in the morning feeling absolutely terrible, and then we had to lug this canoe back down, carrying it half the way back down to the park. And we got back there, I was absolutely exhausted. I had a dislocated toe, I caught flu, I had just shocking pains throughout the whole of my body, and I just collapsed in the tent and I just didn't get out of bed for about another 12 hours. I was absolutely sick. And like about 3 months afterwards, I spoke to him about it. Obviously long after the dust had died down on it all. And I said to him, did you really stick that stick in or not? I mean, did you do it? And I remember he said, he was absolutely honest. He never did stick that stick in. He was absolutely honest for me.
It was a
And
spirit.
so, something happened. It must have been taken over by a spirit.
Taken over by Aboriginal spirit.
Because,
Something
like, Aboriginals, for a pole in the ground is a gravesite.